Hello, I'm Matthew Laskay, and welcome to the show where we talk about innovation to experts in their field about engineering and entrepreneurship. And today we're talking about entrepreneurship in particular. What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? Is it hard work, clever marketing, or is it a certain mindset? Creating that happy mindset requires some work and willingness to let go of those old beliefs. So I'm really thrilled today to be able to be joined by an expert in this field to talk a little bit more about this idea of a happy money mindset. So today we're joined by, as I said, an expert, Dr. Rushana Khusainova. She's a business coach, and I love this title, for curious entrepreneurs. And she's an author of a research blog, and she's also a lecturer in sales at the Aston Business School. So Rushana is joining us today to talk about a new program that she's been launching and hard at work on called Happy Money Mindset. And I'm even more pleased that she's going to share some tips with us today. So welcome, Rushana. Thank you very much for joining in.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matthew. Hello, everyone. And yeah, thank you for being here. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rushana's even got some slides prepared. So
very lighthearted, very visual. Okay, so welcome to this workshop, everyone. Matthew already introduced me, so that's me. So my name is Rushana. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I'll be really happy to expand my network. So today we're talking about happy money mindset, and our discussion is probably going to be divided into three parts. So looking at the money past, at the money present, and money future. I really like that sort of timeline there. And I'll be happy to answer any comments or questions as I go. So please feel free to put this in chat to create that interactive feel. Okay, so just back to basics. What is money mindset? Here we're not talking about, managing personal finances or giving you any kind of advice, a specific advice on managing money. It is instead all about our mindset. So it's our set of inner beliefs around money. So why bother? Why we should really consider this? Because our mindset essentially determines our behavior around money, how we feel and allow that money, success and abundance to come into life, how we treat ourselves around that. So it's kind of quite important. And just last word here on the happy money mindset. I really like that idea of making it a balanced, constructive and positive mindset without any sort of extremes, balancing all the nice things and our attitudes towards money, and balancing our money past, present and future. So yes, if you don't mind, let's start by looking at the money past. So we all grew up being told something about money, about rich people, about wealth and abundance. And whether we wanted it or not, we internalized a lot of the things, which then created our money mindset, on our narratives around money. So something in this sort of area, it's something we call money blocks or limiting money beliefs. That comes from coaching, so it's all about beliefs. And so let's look at the example so that it's really crisp and clear. So, for example, a saying that goes, money is the root of all evil, or the wealthy people are really greedy, or money can't buy happiness. So if you grew up hearing these things from maybe your family, teachers, neighbors, friends, then you'll have that inner belief that money is no good. And if you have that, then that means that you'll be probably repelling money or won't be allowing money to easily and freely come into your life. Just because if you think that I don't want to be greedy, if I become rich, I'll become one of those greedy, not very nice people. So I'd rather stay, you know, modestly, sort of, maybe not poor, but I'd be modest about money. So can I ask you to really ask yourself now and put it in the chat? I think I can see the chat here.
Yep.
So do you have any sort of beliefs that you think are holding you back around, so negative beliefs around money? Hold on, I can see.
It's okay, I can see it. I can
Okay, good.
see if any
Oh,
come through.
there's the chat.
I'll read them out for you if you can't see it.
Okay, yes, thank you. So if you take time to just really think about it, we can then use them as examples.
So we've got one here. The first one is money is hard to earn.
Thank you, Peter. That's a really good one. So if we paraphrase it a little bit, maybe we have to work hard to earn the money. And that's a really interesting belief, because if we hold that kind of belief, then we'll make all possible steps to make sure that easy money won't come into place, won't come into our life. And if we hold that belief, we'll probably take some business decisions which will probably avoid easy money or easy clients or, you know, effortless streams of income, because deep inside we probably believe that, you know, we should work hard. And there may be some underlying belief beyond that as well. Maybe we grew up seeing our parents work super hard and now we feel bad. How can I earn just, you know, 1 hour of my time sitting at a desk doing some sort of consultancy? How can I earn so much money that my dad would have earned in a whole day or in a whole week even? So that feeling of, oh, I feel bad. How can I do this when my parents work so hard? That's just some example of underlying belief.
A lot of pressure, isn't there, on that circumstance?
Yes, absolutely.
So Katja has said too much money can be dangerous. Slightly different take on it.
That's a really good one as well, I think, isn't it? So here we think about money maybe changing people.
Yep.
What are other underlying beliefs? So it could be that, you know, when I earn a lot of money, then I'll become greedy, I'll become, I don't know, ignorant, I'll lose my friends, for example, or I'll be worried sick that I'll lose the money that I have. So it can be potentially dangerous from that point of view. Okay, Caroline says, I'm afraid of spending money in case my circumstances changed and I wasn't able to pay the bills. I don't like to borrow. Okay, this is really interesting. So just to see what's underneath that, looking at the money past, what did you grow up with, seeing or thinking or observing, and what you internalized, that borrowing money is bad and you always have to have a pot to, you know, for a rainy day. Or maybe it's that sense of, okay, I must really make sure that I take care of myself and no one else will. There are all kinds of things, and it could be that it's something we just seen in a movie, or it could be as little as something we've observed happened in our neighbor's family, not necessarily right next to in our own family. And then we just internalize it.
Yeah, I think that's something that's been even more, I suppose, in everyone's minds in the last 12 months, isn't it? Because we've been forced, you know, a lot of very successful businesses or successful roles and things have just disappeared. And have you saved up enough money to get you through? No one expected it to be more than 12 months. How many people were ready for that?
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty, especially in the current circumstances. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Alexei says, a lot of money can trigger jealousy and other people and relatives. So yeah, that's also a really good one. So I don't want others to hate me for being rich. And then also friends and family can maybe start asking for money to borrow and not bring it back. And you'll be forced to give this money up. Because we all want to be good. We all want to be perceived as good citizens, sharing, kind people. And yeah, we don't want to be perceived as greedy and
No, exactly. And it's, I suppose, in the similar line of it's too much is dangerous, isn't it? Whether it's danger for power or danger for attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Elmerg, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly. It's a really interesting name. I used to hear the statements you mentioned earlier when I was younger, but I think that it's good to have a lot of money so you can help and do more. Elmer, okay, absolutely, I totally agree. And it's wonderful to embrace that kind of mentality. The problem sometimes comes that we hold those inner limiting beliefs without even realizing. So I can openly say, for example, I do want to have a lot of money, or I love money. Yet underneath, something may say, ooh, but money can change you, money can spoil you. Or maybe another big block, we can say, oh, you can be either happy and poor, or rich and unhappy, or poor and healthy, or poor with good family relationships, versus being rich and unhealthy, being rich and lonely, or being rich and I don't know, whatever else negative thing that comes to your mind. Oh, thank you, Anna. So others have money, but not us. I've heard it as well. We've always been this, I don't know, poor, for example, or this hardworking, or this, I don't know, intelligent, for example. So when I grew up, there was this a bit of comparison. So my dad's family came from highly educated, intelligent people, doctors, lawyers, and bankers, whereas my mom's side, they were salespeople. And back in Soviet Union, a salesperson kind of label was considered really like, you know, lower than below kind of thing. It wasn't like something to be proud of. And that idea, oh, no, we're intelligent people. We shouldn't think or worry too much about money. That's for those greedy, rich people. So if we hold those beliefs, they will hold us back, because no one wants to be associated with greed, or no one wants to lose their health or family just by becoming rich. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone who shared their examples and their blogs.
Some very good points there, wasn't there?
That's really
good.
Insightful. Thank you. It just shows that these so-called money blocks are probably universal across cultures and times and countries. And well, literature says that we all have them. Even really rich people will still have some sort of money blocks, whether it's a fear of losing it, or fear of, I don't know, that I have to work hard. We still will have some sort of money beliefs. Okay, so important thing. So we know what money blocks or money limiting beliefs are, any negative kind of beliefs around money. So how to spot them now? Well, there are a few ways that you can try yourself, or maybe you can work with a coach or therapist, or just talking to a friend or a family member will be also helpful. So first, look at, let's take this exercise. It comes from coaching. So for example, talk about your money goal. So for example, I want to have £25,000 in my savings account by 2022, being very specific, very precise. Then you say this, you imagine, you picture yourself having that, picture yourself really enjoying that. And then you pause for a moment, you say, but, and then listen to what comes in your mind. So for example, I'm in process of buying a car. Well, I'm looking for a car and I know what I want. It's Toyota RAV4 hybrid. And when I say, well, I picture myself, that car being parked outside my home, and I picture myself driving it. And then I go, but first thing that comes to my mind, what if it gets stolen? So there's a fear of obtaining something to only then lose it. Fear of that material possession, that wealth, element of wealth will be taken away from me. So if I have that, I won't probably be able to attract enough money or the right car for me into my life, because then I'll be really scared to lose it. That's one thing. And you can do it with any sort of element of your wealth. So whatever if it's a money goal you have, or maybe lifestyle, you can say, well, I'm flying this amazing business class cocoon in Singapore Airlines. And then you go, but, and really listen to yourself if there is any sort of emotion that comes back. And then that will give you an indicator of where you have to work. Then two, you can try provoking yourself. Go and open and visit that online, probably shop, something really luxurious you've never done before, maybe Chanel or I don't know, Aston Martin cars, or Porsche or Tesla,
Be nice.
whatever, whatever rocks your boat. So Matthew, can I ask you then, where would you go to something really luxurious?
What would I spend my money on that's luxurious that I wouldn't normally?
Potentially, yes.
For me, it's always a Ferrari. That's the thing that is my top of the. If I reach Ferrari, then that's it. I'm happy.
Fantastic. So you can try that. Go on to the at least online store for Ferraris, or when lockdown.
I've looked.
Yeah. Oh, you have. Good.
Oh yeah, I've done it.
Yeah. So, and then listen for any sort of sensations or feelings or emotions that brings up. Is there anything? Have you noticed anything at all?
Oh, plenty of emotions. One of them is, it feels like a very long way away, obviously, but the next one is, the color, the sound, the feel of sports cars and speed. That's all me. So it's all. I think it's the visual, the sound, and the actual adrenaline part of that's what I like about the Ferraris, I guess, or fast things.
Fantastic. Okay, but looking at the first part, so you say it's a long way. Just try to maybe look at what's behind that. Is it the idea of self-worth? Is it the idea that or it's just too much hard work to get there, or is it just I'm not there yet? So just looking at the underlying.
I like to think that I'm not there yet, because 200,000 pounds on a sports car is probably a very long way away at this point. So, you've got, like you said, I think having the goal of doing that, I've actually got, I've got it actually sitting right here in front of me on my desk to motivate me to get to it.
That's brilliant. It's a perfect visualizing tool. We'll talk about that. Okay, so but trying maybe something for the first time in general, immersing yourself in luxury, and then trying to provoke that feelings, whatever comes up to your mind. So it could be that, oh, that's just too much, or it feels scary, or I feel ashamed for not having enough of, I don't know, my bag, personal handbag isn't, if you're thinking about Chanel handbag, for example. So just provoking yourself, or reading or checking the price of that business class trip, for example, and things like that. And a third way of sort of identifying the blocks is just what we've done here. It's just taking a moment to sit down and write down all the beliefs, all the things that you were told growing up about money. And it's just a simple memorizing exercise that will create the basis for then work on releasing these money blocks. Okay, now in terms of releasing the blocks, obviously, when we've discovered all these blocks, what do we do with them? There are a couple of techniques that come again from coaching. One is working on forgiveness. And forgiveness is a really interesting one. And you may think, well, it's really nothing to deal with my money blocks. But a lot of the time we hold on to, old situations or old people who are unfair to us, or maybe, some memories, anything that provokes any emotional response really needs forgiveness work on it. And I would say, if in doubt, just put them on a list. So it could be, a classmate in year 3 who, I don't know, called you names or bullied you. It could be a teacher who said that you are not talented enough. It could be your parents who, weren't able to earn enough to send you into good school, for example. Or it could be something that happened yesterday when I walked into this luxurious handbag store, going to that example, and the sales assistant looked down at me and thinking, oh, she's never going to afford that. So whatever it is, whatever brings up, whatever makes you feel that emotion, write them down. And then the tool that's coming from Hawaii, actually, it's an ancient Hawaiian forgiveness ritual. And it's called forgiveness ritual. And don't be afraid of the ritual. There is no like candles or any weird things involved. You basically have to say 4 things. I forgive you, thank you, I love you, and I'm sorry. And even if you don't feel like it, even if it feels superficial, or artificial rather, just say it. And better if you write it, actually, because when we write with a pen and paper, then our brain processes things in a more efficient way, slightly differently, research says. So
Sorry, Rushana,
that's one
sorry,
thing. Yes.
just to interrupt 1 second, you're still on the slide money past. Is that the one you meant to be on?
Still money past. Yes,
That's
sorry.
okay.
We're moving on to the next one.
No, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't
Before we
stuck on, sometimes Zoom doesn't show what you can see on your
No,
screen. So I just wanted to double check, that was all.
Thank you, Matthew. Yes.
And would it be okay to ask the question now?
Totally, guys, please.
I'll put my video for the question. I think it's much
Great,
better
yeah.
to have like a bit of interaction. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about this technique, the forgiveness one, and the link to the specific beliefs which we have. Like, for example, I put in the chat that I have the one, or potentially have the one, that money can be dangerous, or too much, a lot of money can be dangerous. So what would be your suggestion to forgive who in this case? Because it sounds like that it's very difficult for me, for example, to link this belief to a particular person, or how it exactly got formed. I might have some ideas, but maybe you can give a suggestion how to take your own belief and then to link it to someone or something we can forgive. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, Katya, thank you very much. That's a great question. That actually brings me to my second technique, where, you know, there is no specific person or maybe institution like banks, for example, involved. And you just have this belief. So too much money is dangerous. In this instance, the technique goes like this. So you say, okay, or you can write it down as well. I have this belief. I currently hold this belief. Too much money is dangerous. Then you take a pause and then you say, but right now I'm prepared, or I'm open to considering an alternative belief. And then you insert an alternative belief. And here the most important thing is that it's not a total opposite of your current belief, because then your inner self will be like, well, that doesn't make sense, that's not true. But you take one step back to making it more constructive. So in this instance, for example, you can say, well, I realize that I have this belief that too much money is dangerous, but I'm open to considering an option or alternative belief that too much money can actually be, and then you come up with the word that actually makes sense to you. Maybe not 100% safe, but, you know, I'm open to considering that it is actually possible, or it's actually, well, you can use the word safe, but, you know, just come up with what makes sense to you. So there are two techniques. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Katya. Okay, and now we're moving on, just mindful of time, moving on to our money present. So there are a few areas. One is balancing giving and receiving. So I know that a lot of books talk about the importance of giving, like Poor Dad, Rich Dad. Robert Kiyosaki talks about rich person gives as it, like, for example, charitable giving, as a habit, as opposed to poor man who gives only when they have money. My approach to this is giving should feel good to causes that actually are meaningful to you. But what I want to talk about is receiving. So how good are you at receiving? So examples could be receiving a compliment. So, for example, Matthew, if I say, Matthew, you look really smart today. So how does that feel?
Firstly, thank you.
Wonderful.
And secondly, for me personally, getting things like that, it's a bit uncomfortable for positive comments that way. And obviously you don't want negative comments, but
Sure.
receiving those sorts of things, you kind of feel a bit, oh, okay, thank you. Don't know what to say.
And you're not the only one. I think a lot of us, if not most of us, are really uncomfortable, and there's some cultural elements potentially, but usually when you receive a compliment, you go, oh, no, it's nothing, or something like that. And instead, I'd like to invite you to practice gratitude. Just say, thank you. Or what about receiving unsolicited gifts? So just without a specific occasion. Sometimes we feel like we're obliged to kind of give back. And that's why that creates a bit of turbulence or conflict inside of us. Or if we go out with friends and your friend is offering to pay for that for your coffee, so it's really uncomfortable. Because we are not really good at receiving and then just taking. It's not just receiving; it's just taking the ownership. Okay, yes, it's mine. So picture yourself finding I don't know, £100 lying on the pedestrian on the walkway. Would you feel 100% happy and content? Or would you feel like, ooh, this came my way, maybe I'll lose it somewhere else, so I should just not take the ownership of this, if that makes sense. Anyway, so what I suggest that you do to make it easier for you to receive, you can use this technique described by Denise Duffield-Thomas in her book. So, for example, if someone offers you to pay for the dinner or coffee, you can say, well, I feel a bit uncomfortable right now, but I'm practicing, I'm learning to receive, so I will say yes to this. Thank you. Just a simple gesture, acknowledging that you are actually learning to normalize and to learning to receive, and then thanking the other person could make you feel really, really much easier and better. Okay, so second thing here is treating yourself as a VIP. And that doesn't mean flying business class. Well, it can mean flying business class, but I'm talking about really tiny little things. So do you have any item of clothing that's uncomfortable, but you're still keeping it because it's in a good state? Or maybe you're using, I don't know, you're with your current bank, you've been with them for years and you continue using them, although they're not offering you the best package or the best product. Or for example, that you are settling in for, second-class treatment when you come to your hairdressers or stylist, for example. So it could be little things that make you feel like VIP. If you go to a shop, do you head straight into the sales section or do you head into the new season section? So treat yourself as a VIP, and it doesn't mean spending too much money. Just make yourself important to yourself, prioritize self-care, and spend that 20 minutes on just being with yourself, doing something that you enjoy. I hear a lot of friends and colleagues say, well, how can you find time to read? I don't have time to read. But for me, that's my own self-care. That's my own way of treating myself as a VIP. And final tip here is really knowing your money. It struck me really, once my husband asked, I've asked him about his pension contributions, and he goes, yes, don't you know yours? And I said, well, I kind of do, but I don't know the exact amount that's there. And he said, oh, okay, you should find out, because I know even how much money I'll be getting when I retire at this age if I continue on this salary. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So I went in and discovered exactly how much money I have there, how much money is coming in from different sources of income, including 3 or 2.5, whatever interest rate on my savings account. Everything should be accounted for, because all the things that we have, if we know exactly what we have or how much we have, whether it's actual money, savings, or material possessions or future investments, actually make us feel wealthier. And when we feel wealthier, we then treat ourselves somehow better. And that way we create a better, more balanced and happier money mindset. Okay, before we move on to the future, do you have any questions or suggestions or ideas or anything that comes up?
Nothing just yet, unless anyone's thinking. But so just you mentioned one question there for you. This is from me. You mentioned going out, looking after yourself, and absolutely think, at times you need to spoil yourself off or not think of yourself as a VIP in that. Going out and buying something expensive, and expensive means different things to different people. Is that one way that you think helps that? Or do you think that's just a short-term thing, because eventually you're going to go, well, I really shouldn't have spent that much because now I feel guilty that I spent that amount of money, and now I'm worse than if I had gone and spoiled myself in the first place?
That's a really good point, Matthew. Thank you. I totally against spending money, that buying something we can't really afford. I've just recently joined, there's this Meaningful Money community. It's all about the actual real money investing and just money management advice.
Right.
And in there, what they say is you should only borrow if you want to invest. And like Robert Kiyosaki says, only invest in assets as opposed to liabilities. And car, for example, is classed as one of the liabilities. So yeah, absolutely not. What I mean is little baby steps, little upgrades that make you feel good. And it absolutely doesn't have to be money. So if you want to experience, you can go and buy something from grocery in the store, range higher than your usual. So if you buy, for example, a smart price, and then go one range up just to try and see how it feels.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't really be grand gestures of spending money, because we don't want to experience guilt. That's not constructive at all.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
I think Peter's got a really good point there. If you're saying, he's saying that he actually gets enjoyment out of keeping things low and repairing them rather than buying them new.
Yes, that's a really good point. So this is more money for the other things. Absolutely. If this is what you enjoy, if this is your hobby, if that's what makes you feel good, absolutely, that's great. And everyone has a right for a hobby, and doing things ourselves. It's nice, especially if it's something tactile or repairing and things like that. So yeah, absolutely.
I also have a question. It's about the first point, balancing giving and receiving. So you say, like, okay, if somebody invited you, you just say thank you. But do you mean that this thought, okay, that next time I would like to invite you, or like, do you mean to park this thought and not to do that, or just do it differently?
Yes, thank you, Katya. I think it's a balance. And if it's my turn to pay, I will happily pay, because it is a balance of giving and receiving. But if it's my friend's turn, for example, to get the coffee, I'll also be happy to receive that coffee. A lot of us are, though, not comfortable with receiving full stop. And it's maybe that because it's a sense of, then, I'll be obliged, or I'll have to repay that at some point, that sense of that. And that maybe that's another thing of just in general being uncomfortable receiving something. There could be different psychological underlying reasons, but absolutely it has to be a balance of giving and receiving on a specific scale with that group of friends, and on a macro scale as well in your life in general. It's like this round of drinks in pubs, the culture which I discovered myself when I came to the UK. And so went out with some colleagues, and one of them got drinks for everyone. I thought, oh my God, this is so generous. This is lovely. And then it turned out everyone goes for a round of drinks, which is a perfect example of a balance of giving and receiving, I think. Thank you for this question.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so the final part is our money future. And this is all about being smart about our vision, and then taking actions and steps towards achieving that vision. So I think, Matthew, your example with the Ferrari model being right there in front of you in the place where you can always see it is a perfect example of visualizing your goal. So why is it important to be specific? That SMART acronym, we'll talk about this in a minute. Because if we just say, well, I want to be, wealthier, or I want to have more savings, or I want to, have a more comfortable lifestyle, it's not very specific. First of all, we won't know when we achieve that. And second of all, for our brain, it doesn't mean much, because our brain likes to be very, very specific. And as one of the examples from the psychology domain, for example, instead of saying, I cannot afford it, we can start saying, how can I afford it? And that's what a lot of the authors in the field talk about. So if we look at the specifics of our future goals, let's start with knowing where we are at the moment. So can I ask everyone to rate their relationship with money from 0 to 10? 0 being me and money, just, you know, not friends, very bad relationship. I have no idea how to earn or save or manage money. And 10 being perfect relationship. I have all the wealth I want. My money is flowing, effortless, and everything is great. So where are you at which number? What's your number at the moment on a scale from 0 to 10? Okay, Alexei, 4 to 5. Hi, Rafik. So it says 5, 7, 7, 8. Okay, that's really good. 6, 7. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Now, this really helps. This comes from actually coaching as well. This helps us to put things into perspective. So 2 things I want to highlight here. Most importantly, if we look at where we came from, so if you think where you were maybe 3 to 5 years ago and where you're at now, I really want you to take a moment to be grateful for your journey, to appreciate all you achieved, coming from whatever the number was to where you're at now. And then second step, once you appreciated your journey and your efforts and your achievements, then set your goal for the next sort of, I don't know, 3 years, for example. So if you're currently at a 7, then you can say, well, I want to be at a 9 by end of 2023, for example. So then second thing is doing it smart way. Be specific. So what does that mean, the 9? So for me will mean, I don't know, 30,000 in my savings account. It means a new car. It means a house with 3 bedrooms and not 2. And it means 3 new clients in May 2021. Whatever it is, this is just an example. Think about this being realistic and achievable, because if you're currently on 50,000 pounds a year, and then if you say I want to achieve 5 million pounds a year, then your psyche, your inner self will feel, oh, this is not possible. Yeah, I'm not even going to go this way. Yeah. So be ambitious, but realistic, something that's, you know, possible, maybe with a stretch, but still possible. It feels almost possible. Yeah. Then be specific. So set a time specific timeline on this. So whether it's in May 2021, then by end of this year or by next calendar year, whatever it is, be really specific with your time. And how will you know that you actually achieved this? So again, going back to the actual specific numbers, name that object. You can be super specific. You could be Toyota RAV4 hybrid from 2019 model with business edition interiors. Yeah. And then second part here is visualize. So there's a lot of research to support that visualizing things actually make it really happen, or you achieve it so much quicker. There is research around sportsmen rehearsing their act, and then scientists measured the muscle and the difference between sports people performing the act and then just visualizing the act was minimal. So visualization is very, very strong. So one way of doing it is creating a vision board, for example. There's a lot of research around that. And be consistent. So a lot of literature say that you have to write down your goals every day. So if you do that, then there is again more reminders for your brain to work that way, and more you know, little reminders for the brain to think of the ways of achieving those goals. So that's it. I've got some recommended reading. I'm coming from academia, hey, so we always have to conclude with recommended reading. And
Absolutely.
yeah, we just we just finished our 45 minutes as promised, but I'm happy to take any questions at all.
Yeah, just while people are thinking of some questions, there's some really great information in there that you've talked about past, present, future. Where did you come up with the idea to do this in the first place, or where did that passion come from to say, you know, this is what I want to actually teach people? You know, you've done sales, marketing, all sorts of things, but this is a bit different. Where did it come from?
Thank you, Matthew. Well, I've read a lot of books, and money is a big and important part of our life, and it kind of signifies a little bit of self-acceptance, self-worth, those self-love even. So I've read a lot about it, and then I've attended a couple of courses. I had some coaching, so I was consciously working in that. And it's just the whole work around money structured into that past, present, and future for me. Again, I'm coming from academia, so putting things into categories is like is like what we do, kind of thing. And yeah, that's how it's structured for me. And another thing is that idea of balance and positivity coming from positive psychology. I thought it's important to have it balanced as opposed to going for extremes, for example. And that's why it's happy money mindset.
Brilliant. Yeah, great. So maybe if you want to stop sharing the screen, and we could invite anybody who wants to talk to stick their camera on. Everybody can just join in if they feel free, and we can just open up some questions. And
yeah, I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, I found that really insightful, actually. And there's a couple of things I've never thought of before. And for example, treating yourself as a VIP. I quite like that idea. And I also really like the smart vision. Set yourself a smart vision for your money. So that's two things I'll certainly take away from this. So thank you.
Thank
you. I think Alexei, you said you had a couple of questions.
Yeah,
as well.
so it's about the presentation itself. So I understood the idea of money blocks and so on. So it kind of makes sense. So the question is, so for example, if you identify all your blocks and then let's say you resolve them, at some point, then what are the next steps, in this case, or do you just work continuously with these blocks, or what kind of advice once you resolved all these issues? So what's the progression after that?
Yes, thank you, Alexei. Very good question. So we resolve the blocks, but work never stops. We always will be discovering new blocks, and then we'll have to do new work on releasing them. So it's a lifelong kind of journey. But once you kind of discovered the blocks, then resolve them, the current ones, then you start working on your present balance of giving, receiving, learning how to receive, learning to give happily, treat yourself as a VIP, and set those specific goals to aim for.
Okay. Yep, thank you. So it's just, continuous improvement, really, just to find something else to improve, I guess, all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I have another question as well. Obviously, all people are different in terms of the mindset. So some people have a bit better imagination than others, and some people probably are a bit more brave than other people as well. So for when you say that, if you can imagine things, when you can say things out loud, what you want, but some people probably will be a bit more shy to say things out loud, for example, or be imaginative, in this case, or just something stops them to think about that way. Say, that's not for me to say, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any advice on how to kind of overcome these blocks?
Absolutely.
In terms of your just mindset, it's just sometimes your mind is so resistant to do these things.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a really good point. So at the moment you said, "Oh, that's not for me," that's where you start discovering your block. Why is it not for you? You start digging deeper, asking the questions, and trying to get to the bottom of this. What is it behind that? Is it idea of self-worth? Is it idea of your own personal preferences, or is it belief that with certain amount of money or wealth or material possessions comes some dangers? So try to identify and discover that. And the key thing here is self-awareness, just really being able to ask yourself questions and then listen to responses. And sometimes, like in coaching, when I work with clients, I ask them to feel where you feel the response in your body. And it always be, not always, but often it's around chest or around our belly area. And then you'd work with that feeling, because once it's in the body, you can identify and start digging deeper. But the moment you're raising your self-awareness is the beginning of the journey, and a really good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions there, Alexei. Thank you very much. As anyone else want to jump in with one more? We've got Rushana still a few minutes left. No, I think it looks like you've solved everybody's problems there, Rushana, just in 45 minutes. That's brilliant.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. And yes, Peter,
I had one final question,
please.
and you were talking about money and entrepreneurship. And obviously in entrepreneurship, there's investment. And one of the things that I probably feel most uncomfortable is either making financial investments or business investments. That's probably the thing I agonize over the most. Have you any suggestions how to handle that better?
Thank you, Peter. Well, I think it's a balancing act of your mindset and then the actual real practical actions. So with practical actions, I would say, you know, join this, for example, as a starting point. I just started reading Meaningful Money. I think it's called Meaningful Money handbook or something. It's by British author, and he's got this podcast as well and this group. So that's the practical, actual specific advice on investing. But when it comes to mindset, which is my part, is again discovering those fears, those expectations and beliefs that will help you in balancing that practical and more of a psychological work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Thank you. It's a really good point about investing, and I'm starting to learn about it myself as well. And I finished economics. I have economics and marketing degree.
Yeah.
And it's not something we're taught in the university or in school or anywhere, isn't it? It's really interesting.
Thank you.
I think it's one of those points too, where in business, you know, you're working away, and especially if you're just like, you know, some people are small businesses, one or a few people. How do you take that leap from where you are then to investing that money, like Peter suggested, to then that's what you need to take that bit, but it's hard to get into that mindset of I need to spend that money, like you said, not a liability, but an investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And viewing it as an investment in your business is a way. There's a great book which was on the slides called The Big Leap. And this idea that we reach our ceiling and then we start inventing problems because we feel like our capacity for happiness, wealth, or whatever it is, wealth is reached. And if we feel like that we reached that glass ceiling, we won't allow ourselves to progress. So that book is really great at working with that idea of glass ceiling.
I just wanted maybe to add here, because I also recently read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I really like the idea there about investing, because what he says is that, I think it's him and also another book as well, that you need to take like 1/10 of your income to invest, because then it doesn't sound like a scary figure. Like you can divide your income on 10 parts and you just need to make sure that you live from 9/10. And then you start investing like that, bit by bit, but very, very consistently. And I really like that idea, because I think sometimes when we think about investing, you're like, oh, suddenly I need to invest a lot of money. But when you think, oh, it's 1/10 of what I earn monthly, regardless of what this figure is, he says that the most important is consistency. And that's what I really liked. And also I thought like today's conversation, I think it's a great example of already shifting some of the blocks, because what Rushana, you said, like where the focus goes, where the awareness goes, that's where the results come out. It's with everything in life, yeah, like where you start putting the attention, after some time with some patients, that's where you see the return. And I think if we look at that, like at our lives and just kind of analyze what happened before, like usually what pays off is where you put the attention. So yeah, thank you very much for this talk today and for sparking these ideas of different questions to think about.
Thank you very much, Katja. That's a really good point. I like the idea of safe kind of part of investment. And another idea from that Rich Dad Poor Dad is whatever it is that we need advice on, go for the good qualified advisor. Like he says, isn't the difference between poor and rich people? Rich people are able to employ really good quality advisors who will be able to tell you what to do how to do things in the best possible way. So yeah, it's a really good point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katja. That was a really good way, I think, to close up the conversation, that, you know, by putting the talk out there into the world, we're being positive, we're talking about it, we're trying to remove some of those blocks. And I really like the way, Rushana, that you've talked about, as I said before, the past, present and future. because it's a process. And by having the goals, by having the visualization, removing those blocks to then free yourself up and free your mind up to get to where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be just money, does it? It can be in anything you're doing, what you want to define as success for you. So I think it's a brilliant way to sort of wrap that process up. And I know that the program's going to do well, you know, just judging by the engagement here. Thank you everybody for your engagement too, joining in, asking questions and areas like that. If you've got any more ideas for future topics, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear some ideas of other things you'd like to talk about. And also follow this on YouTube, and you'll see more of experts like Rushana. And of course, thank you so much, Rushana, for putting this together, and also for helping so many people in the topics that you're helping in. It's brilliant.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting, and thank you for participating, everyone.
Yeah, brilliant. See you again all on the next one. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.